please call the roll.
Good morning. It is now 11:03 a.m. Calling the roll for the Monday, August 6th Board of Control meeting. Nan Baker, Dale Miller, Joe Nani serving as an alternate for Dan Brady, Mike Dever, Armin Budish,
Here.
Angie Rich serving as an alternate for Dennis Kennedy, and Rich Opry serving as an alternate for Lenora Lockett. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Minutes from July 30th. Any questions or changes? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, tabled item.
We have one tabled item number BC 2018-503, Court of Common Pleas, Corrections Planning Board, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42560, which will result in an award recommendation to Passages Connection Fathers and Sons, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $860,707.39 for implementation of the Cognitive Behavioral Interventions and Job Placement for Probationers project, and it's for the period April 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019.
Marty Murphy for the Corrections Planning Board. We're requesting approval of this award recommendation to Passages in the amount of $860,707.39. The source of the funding is Justice Reinvestment Act state grant funding.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller.
Is there a match requirement?
There's no match required.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes. Councilwoman Baker.
Is it the state that held it up for 4 months before you got approval? Because this is now August and this period started in April.
Sure. This body accepted the award in February of this year from the state. Subsequent to that, we went through an RFI process at the court that took about 3 months. On May 9th, we submitted we hit send in the on-base system, and 3 months later, now we're here.
Just a follow-up, is there any way that the program can begin at the time that we were able to begin and not go through this, or do you have to go through this process when you know that you have the funds? It just seems that we could have been enacted using this program in April.
We actually began the program in April, and that's why it's dated April. There was a training put on. Once we had selected the vendor, for the last 4 weeks, we were going through a negotiation. We knew who the vendor was going to be. There was a training that had to be done specifically by the University of Cincinnati that began April 2nd. Because of that, we use that as the start date because the vendor will ultimately get paid for their staff being in that training for that week.
Which hasn't been paid yet.
It has not.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
New items for review, item BC 2018-508, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 42563 and enter into a contract with Cook Paving Construction Co., Incorporated, in the amount not to exceed $446,140.70 for resurfacing of North Main Street from the Chagrin Falls Township South Corporation line to Falls Road in Chagrin Falls Township, in connection with the 2018 Operations Resurfacing Program.
Nicole English with Public Works. We're asking to make the award to the lowest bid that came in. There was 4 packages pulled, 3 bids were received. Cook is the lowest. This project was estimated at $520,000, so it came about $80,000 under the estimate. We think it was good time to bid paving, and this is being paid 100% out of Road and Bridge because it is in Chagrin Falls Township, where it falls under that small portion of county road in the township that we're responsible for.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
Is there a minority participation on this contract?
There is, and they're meeting it. So it's 7% SBE, 6% WBE, and 17% MBE.
And when's the start and completion date expected?
It's anticipated to start August 20th and end by November 16th. This should be a pretty quick job. They'll be in and out.
Okay, got to get this going.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-509, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment, subsidiary number 1, to a contract with C&K Industrial Services, Inc. for cleaning, televising, and maintaining sanitary sewer systems in various municipalities, and it's for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2018, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $100,000.
So this item is to amend the contract by $100,000 for the additional needs that we have in the communities. It will be paid back by their sanitary sewer district funds. This is for cleaning, televising, and maintaining for stuff that we cannot do, bigger jobs that we can't do in-house.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-510, Department of Development, the exemption, which will result in a payment to Greater Cleveland Sports Commission in the amount of $225,000 for operational support for the period August 6, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, and B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Paul Hertig with the Department of Development. This is Cuyahoga County's annual operating support to the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
If it's an annual payment, why is it starting in August?
Thank you. Councilman, my understanding is in the current concern for retroactive approvals, we needed to put that on as the start date, but I would note that Council specifically set aside this money for the year of 2018 in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So has any of this money been used by the Greater Cleveland Partnership between January and now?
It's my understanding that the Sports Commission has a healthy cash flow, so it hasn't been forced to alter its operations in any way waiting for this to be approved. They were, however, under the expectation the full amount would be delivered at some point during the year.
Since it was included in the budget.
Sure. It just, if I may, this funding for $225,000 will be for the balance of the year because they've already gotten through between now and January, or is it they're spent money elsewhere and now anticipating to kind of backflow?
Okay. Again, it's my understanding due to the magnitude of the Commission's operations, they will certainly be able to assign this many expenses between August and December 31st.
Sure. Any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dember. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-512, 511, Department of Development, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in a payment to Western Reserve Historical Society in the amount of $5,000 for sponsorship of the weekend celebration saluting George L. Forbes, Esquire, and it's for the period October 13th, 2018 through December 31st, 2018, and B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Paul Hertig again for the Department of Development. This sponsorship will be paid from the Department of Development's operating budget and will allow Cuyahoga County to be recognized at the level of supporting sponsor for this weekend.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller.
Could you describe what's going to take place at this weekend and who else is participating and what's the total project cost?
Thank you. Councilman, while this full information packet was attached to the on-base item, I have to confess I have not memorized it. I'd be happy to follow up with that information. There is, however, a weekend of activities. It's organized by the Western Reserve Historical Society, so it's their event. They've organized a variety of panels and community engagement activities. As noted here, this is in honor of George Forbes, but it touches on, a range of topics covering his career.
Further questions? Yes, Mr. Dember.
If I'm not mistaken, I believe Council Member Miller had served with Council.
That is correct.
Yes, that's interesting. Thank you.
A good length of time. No?
We will not ask Councilman Miller to give us inside stories at this moment, however, since we're televised. Councilwoman Baker.
Just curious, what level of sponsorship is this? Are we on the high end, low end, mid?
Right. So supporting sponsor is in the middle. It is neither the largest nor the smallest available.
Thank you.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
This item is a two-part item. Item BC 2018-512, Fiscal Office. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42938, which will result in an award recommendation to PSAV in the amount not to exceed $11,218.90, and it's for the provision of audiovisual equipment to be used at the Cuyahoga County forfeited land sale, and it's for the period August 28th, 2018 through August 31st, 2018. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Greg Goff from Real Property. As stated, this is for the audiovisual equipment for our forfeited land sale, which will be held down at the Convention Center the 29th through the 31st of August. It is for the 28th because we are going to set up and test and run training on that day as well. As I said, this is for a 9 by 16 foot screen, a projector, 4 55-inch monitors to place throughout the auditorium, as well as the sound system for me, who will be working as the auctioneer for that sale.
Thank you. Questions? Councilman Miller?
Who receives the proceeds from the forfeited land sale?
A bunch of us do. The first thing by law that we have to do is we reimburse the cost of the sale. So this amount will be reimbursed from the very first group of proceeds. From that, the next thing that we have to pay off are the court costs that are incurred in the foreclosure process. That goes to the county prosecutor, the clerk of courts, and to the sheriffs based off whatever they have paid throughout the foreclosure process. At that point in time, we are required by law to give money to the I call it DTAC. I think there's a DRATAC. It's a delinquent tax assessment fund. It equals 5% is given to that. At the end of it, after all of those are paid off, then the communities based off what was sold in their communities would then get the remaining money from those sales. Last year, I think we gave to the various communities about $1.1 million from the last sale, the majority of it going to Cleveland.
So Cuyahoga County itself does not get any benefit, is that correct?
That's the prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department, and the clerk of courts would all get their costs through the process reimbursed. On average, it's about $1,100, some higher, some lower for court costs. Those are the second things that are paid out. So Cuyahoga County does. The DTAC money goes to Cuyahoga County. The fiscal officer gets a little bit of that, as does the treasurer, and then the Cuyahoga County Land Realization Corporation gets some of that money. Yes, they do get some benefit from it. About half, I would say, would go towards county, and then the rest of it would go towards the communities.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Yes, whenever you read only vendor who provides, so why would we go for an RFP exemption if it shouldn't perhaps be a sole source?
It probably should be a sole source. I didn't know about that when I submitted this to be bid on, not to be bid on, but through the system. Mm-hmm. For the next one, I will go sole source. I just turned it in. I wasn't sure what I had to do with it. So yes, they are the only ones that provide at the convention center.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2018-513, Fiscal Office. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43199, which will result in an award recommendation to Thomson Reuters Tax and Accounting, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $1,616, and it's for the purchase of one RIA payroll guide print. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, this is Angela Rich with the Fiscal Office. We're requesting authority to purchase this book. This is mainly used by our controller and our payroll group, mainly to make sure that W-2 payroll taxes are calculated correctly and we're in compliance with all tax laws. This is the best resource that we've found available. It is only available in print. It's not an online subscription. We have purchased this book in the past, and we would like to continue to do that due to the changes in the tax laws, and considering we may need this book as a resource for ERP design considerations.
Thank you. Questions? Councilwoman Baker?
It is surprising that with the taxes and how they change, especially when it comes to payroll, that this would not be offered online with updates as they change.
They do provide updates, but they're paper updates, and plus they give you a monthly newsletter as part of this purchase.
All hard copy.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
This book it's good that it is a book because it's placed in our payroll area for multiple staff to be able to reference quickly instead of having to keep purchasing subscriptions. But this particular resource isn't even available online.
Further questions? Councilman Miller?
It's pretty thick. It's a pretty thick book because it has all the tax laws in it and W-2 considerations, which we have been using in the past because our accounts payable system does not talk to our payroll system. And if we have to take a employee reimbursement and make it a taxable item, that's all manual, and we have to research the appropriate process to get that onto the employee's W-2.
I have never seen one book costing $1,616 unless it's some historical artifact that's rare.
You're not used to dealing with tax and law books.
Is this a reasonable cost for this item?
I know it's a valuable resource. It's used.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
The next part is a two-part item. Item number BC 2018-514, County Council. A, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in a payment to Milestones Organization in the amount of $50,000. And it's for operational support of the Help Desk Capacity Building Initiative. And it's for the period August 6, 2018 through December 31st, 2018. And B, recommending the payment in connection with said RFP exemption.
Joe Nani, excuse me, Joe Nani with County Council. As Andrea indicated, this is the Help Desk Capacity Building Initiative. In essence, what Milestones does for residents of the county is assist in providing assistance to families with that have children with autism and understanding the areas where they can get assistance from other agencies. They also provide training for families who have children with autism, along with training agencies that provide services to people with autism. So we're respectfully requesting approval of this item.
Any questions?
Rich Oakley from OPD. The Milestones Organizations is not registered with the Inspector General?
Are you sure?
My understanding.
Okay. I can. I think that then, if that's the case, we should approve this if we can, contingent upon registration.
I agree.
Okay. I'll see what.
So amended. Any further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
The next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-515, Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 42990, which will result in an award recommendation to Legal News Publishing Company, and it's in the amount not to exceed $19,979.25 for advertising services for delinquent land sales. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, I'm Sergeant Griner with the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Office on behalf of 515. We're asking for the approval of the $19,979.25 to be approved so it could be returned back to recoup fees, deal with the forfeit to the state. When properties are not sold, they're either given to the forfeit to the state or the land bank. After those are sold, the money goes back through the county fiscal, and these help us recoup our fees that goes back to the sheriff's office, and then at the end of the month, those fees are then given back to the general fund.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2018-516, Sheriff's Department. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 42920, which will result in an award recommendation to Benjamin Foods in the amount not to exceed $2,676, and it's for the purchase of frozen mixed vegetables. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, everyone.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm Corporal Schillinger. I work for the Sheriff's Department. I do most of their food ordering for them. We were looking to get this because a clerical error was made and it was ordered from the wrong vendor. So the food's already in the budget. It was just ordered from the wrong vendor. That's all it was. So.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-517, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 43045, which will result in an award recommendation to Piney Ridge Treatment Center, LLC, in the amount not to exceed $100,000 for residential treatment services, and it's for the period August 6, 2018 through July 24, 2019. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Karen Littman with Juvenile Court. This is a RP exemption in a contract for residential treatment for one youth at Piney Ridge Treatment Center. This is a youth with very specific and particular needs. None of the facilities that are currently on our master residential contract are able to take this youth and to provide treatment for this youth, so we sort of scoured the country, and this is the facility that we found.
Thank you. Any questions?
Where's,
Councilman Miller.
where's the facility located?
It's located in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And just another thing, I think when I updated the date, I think I made it a year. So it should be 8/6/18 to 8/5/19 is what I submitted.
Okay, we'll
I
make
think I
that.
kept the year when we updated the date. Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve with the date amended. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Dever. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, item BC 2018-518, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services Witness Victim, requesting approval to apply for and accept grant funds from the State of Ohio Attorney General's Office in the amount of $521,056, and it's for the fiscal year 2019 Victims of Crime Act Defending Childhood Initiative, Intake and Assessment / Camp Hope Program, and it's for the period October 1st, 2018 through September 30th, 2019.
Good morning, Jeff Harriman with Public Safety and Justice Services. This is a grant application requesting funding to serve children who have been exposed to violence. It would provide treatment, screening, and assessment, and also provide what's called Camp Hope, which would be a youth camp in the summer of 2019 for children that are exposed to domestic violence and abuse.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Miller, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item BC 2018-519, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, on behalf of Child Support Services, submitting an agreement with MDRC in the amount not to exceed $93,335 to define the terms and conditions associated with funding, development, and implementation of a new employment-focused program for low-income, non-custodial parents in connection with the Families Forward demonstration program, and it's for the period June 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2019.
Good morning. Kevin Gowan, representing the Office of Child Support Services. This is for the Families Forward demonstration grant. We're one of 6 states and 12 counties to receive this grant. It was actually approved by this board for us to apply and receive the grant in January of 2016. This is simply entering an agreement with MDRC to receive the money to start the operational phase of the grant.
Any questions?
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Is this federal funding?
I'm sorry?
Is this federal funding?
What?
Federal funding.
Is the grant federal?
I'm sorry. It is a private Kellogg Foundation grant.
Oh, okay.
And is it my understanding that there's a federal match?
Yes, as part of the grant, we received a federal waiver from the Federal Office of Child Support in order to use federal financial participation money for employment services for non-custodial parents.
Thank you. Further questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So how is this considered revenue generating?
This is an agreement that is receiving money for a grant. I'm not sure why it was categorized as revenue generating. It's simply receiving money for the grant.
All right, so it's really not revenue generating. It's just receiving
It's
as we do
receiving
with other
money.
grants?
It's revenue coming
We
in.
receive from the grant.
Yeah,
It's considered revenue generating, although it's not like we're earning the money.
right. And we have had other grants that we don't call revenue generating.
Mr. Nani.
I just recently was talking to Gene Schmatzer about this because I know it's terminology that is regularly used. Maybe we should talk sidebar about maybe making a distinction between a grant that we get funding for and funding that's coming in for a service that's provided.
Yes.
Those two things are different, although sometimes we mix that terminology together. So
That'd be
it's
helpful.
worth a conversation, I believe.
Thank you.
Certainly be supportive of that. Thank you. Any further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-520, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43325, which will result in an award recommendations to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $400,000 for a supplemental nutrition assistance program, SNAP to Skills Services, and it's for the period August 6, 2018 through September 30th, 2018, and B, recommending the awards in connection with said RFP exemption. A, to Cuyahoga County Public Library, B, Youth Opportunities Unlimited, Inc., C, Cleveland Center for Arts and Technology, doing business as Newbridge, Cleveland, D, Cuyahoga Community College District, E, the Centers for Families and Children, and F, towards employment.
Good morning, David Merriman, Cuyahoga County Department of Health and Human Services. I'm here presenting this item on behalf of Job and Family Services. There are two items before you today. The first is recognizing a RFP exemption through the use of an alternative procurement for a workforce contract. The second is to make awards based upon that alternative procurement. A little bit of background on this item. Many will recall that 2 years ago, I brought forward an item to establish a relationship with Seattle Jobs Initiative Through that relationship and the agreement that will be reviewed later in this agenda, we have replicated the state of Washington's program that helps individuals receiving SNAP find employment. The Seattle or Washington state model has been recognized by the federal government as essentially a best practice. The federal government has funded the organization that helped create that model to replicate that service to initially 10 states. It has since grown to 12 states and I think is now approaching 20 states. We went out and purchased the model directly from the provider. It should be noted that the state of Ohio has now followed our lead and entered into a relationship with Seattle Jobs Initiative as well to replicate the model statewide. So the model helps us by bringing community resources to our attention so that our clients can be served. The way this works is that we issued a survey asking the community, what services are you funding entirely out of your own funds, 100% locally funded, so that we can request reimbursement on your behalf from the federal government. County money is not used for these services. The local agency forwards its money, and we request reimbursement on their behalf. And the survey, so the Part A, was developed in conjunction with the federal government as well as the technical assistance provider. All responses were considered. Everyone that had a viable program was brought forward. The awards that we've selected to these 6 providers are what we hope to be in the initial period, and we hope to see this program grow. I know there will be a question about the term, 2 months. This is the end of the federal fiscal year, the current federal fiscal year, and we will be bringing an item to County Council extending this agreement for 12 months within the next couple weeks. And our hope is to have that item also approved that will be for 12 months, a much larger contract, and in time, hopefully, to have the contract grow to include other providers. I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
So the funding source is the Health and Human Services levy. Did I hear you say that that was going to be totally reimbursed?
So the funding source is actually the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food and Nutrition funds.
Okay.
There are funds available at the federal level. It's between $200 and $300 million that are available for reimbursement,
Okay.
and those funds will pass to the county when the services have been essentially logged through the state with the federal government. So these are federal dollars. Some of the money that may be used by the providers may be Health and Human Service levy dollars that were given to them as grants, but most of the funding is local dollars that were either raised through donations or sought through grants. These have to be clean dollars that are not matching any other federal dollars.
So the HHS levy is not really a source that you need, or it'll be something that's reimbursed once you receive the federal funds? I just wonder why we're showing a funding source of HHS.
So there may be some confusion because I believe the
I
item is.
think it's
Federal.
No, it's
Did
federal.
I say that am I
food
looking at the
assistance,
wrong one?
education, and training.
We're 520.
Thank you. Wrong one.
Sure.
Thanks. Sorry.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Councilman Miller.
Is participation in this program voluntary by SNAP recipients, or does this involve application of federal requirements or state requirements that are required for participation in the program?
Very good question. I apologize. It's a little bit of a complicated answer. The state of Ohio is a mandatory state. In the state of Ohio, if you are receiving SNAP and you are a single adult without children, you do not have a choice unless you have an exemption to be doing an activity. The point of this is to identify where individuals have gone to another community resource to have their work activity requirement be met so that we can count that and we can draw funding for it. So that's the work requirement for this group. However, your question about is participation in this program mandatory? The answer is no. because this is based upon reverse referral, if I were a client and I went to Towards Employment, I chose Towards Employment. This is simply having Towards Employment acknowledge my choice so that my activity requirements will be met and some portion of their funding will be reimbursed. So as an ABOD, they don't have a choice, but to participate, they can choose where they go.
You're right, that is a complicated.
It's taken us 2 years to get off the ground, and there's a reason for it. This is very complicated. This is also the reason there's between $200 and $300 million sitting at the federal level, and very few states and counties have figured out how to draw those funds.
Further questions?
You wonder whether how much reduction in SNAP participation you're going to get. I know the idea is to help get people off the program, but are you going to pay more money than what you're going to save? I wonder about that.
It's a very good point.
Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes.
If I may, if I could simply recognize that Senator Sandra Williams made much of this possible through a grant to the county to help explore this program. And so, I'd like to just read into the record a note of gratitude to Senator Williams for making this possible.
Next item, item BC 2018-521, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an amendment to a contract with Catholic Charities Corporation, King Kennedy Head Start, for universal pre-kindergarten services. And it's for the period August 1st, 2015 through July 31st, 2018, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $35,000.
Good morning, Bob Stabe with the Office of Early Childhood, seeking authorization of an amendment for Catholic Charities King Kennedy Head Start to increase the contract value by $35,000. King Kennedy is one of our UPK providers. It's one of the ones that was originally selected back in 2015. We're coming up to the very tail end. King Kennedy was especially successful in filling all of the seats in their in their location. And consequently provided UPK services in excess of their original contract amount. It's important also to recognize that there is a companion amendment on today's agenda under the consent portion of the agenda, 531, which diminishes the Catholic Charities Corporation St. Philip Neri Head Start amendment by $35,000. So this is revenue neutral. It was all originally HH levy funds, but it's been locked down in these two different contracts. We're moving $35,000 from one that has not been as successful in serving children to one that has.
Thank you.
Happy to take your questions.
Other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-522, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42554, which will result in an award recommendation to Values in Action Foundation in the amount not to exceed $70,000 for workforce training services for youth for the period August 7th, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Robin Martin, Family and Children First Council. Values in Action offers an intensive development program that works with youth to create pathways out of poverty. The workforce training is paired with social emotional learning, and the services are offered to inner city youth. This contract will serve youth at John Adams High School.
Thank you. Questions?
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
I'm going to channel my colleague, Purnell. How many people will be served with this money?
Councilman, I would have to go back and look to see what was recommended in the contract and get back to you on that.
Okay, fine.
Further questions? Yes. Councilwoman Baker.
Given this is workforce training, along with the other services that you provide, are you working with the Department of Development to coordinate with what it is that you're doing so that they could perhaps pick it up from where you left off when these students graduate?
We can look into that. Actually, this is a brand-new contract that was added to our budget through the budget process. And this is our first time working with Values in Action, also known as Project Love. So that may be something we can look at going forward.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is a two-part item, item BC 2018-523, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 42848, which will result in an award recommendation to International Social Service United States of America Branch, Inc., in the amount not to exceed $9,000 for post-placement follow-up services for the period August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2019, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Bob Math with the Department of Health and Human Services on behalf of the Division of Children and Family Services. This is an agreement with an organization called International Social Services. Initially, it was a child that was in the custody of DCFS and was reunited with their father. Their father was living in Germany. There was already a home study was done to ensure that the placement was safe. And this contract, under that agreement, we have to do 6 post-follow-up visits to ensure the well-being of the child. And this contract allows the organization in Germany to conduct those post-follow-up, placement visits.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. And now we're on to the consent agenda items 524 to 537. Are there any questions on any of these items? Mr. Nani.
I have one question. I believe I might know the answer to it, but there's a travel item in here for the Office of Budget and Management that has airfare, lodging, meals. Then it also has parking and ground transportation. And I was curious why there was parking and ground transportation if they're flying to Chicago.
I can take the question back.
I think sometimes they put it in there if
Usually-
they might be driving, but I wasn't sure if that was the case.
Andrea Richardson, Office of Procurement and Diversity. Usually when they're submitting parking, that's for parking at the airport.
Oh, to get to the airport?
Correct.
And then $280 in ground transport?
Usually that's traveling within the city.
But the
via
hotel
cab.
was very close to the actual event that they were attending.
We can confirm that, but usually that's the case.
Okay.
Airport transfers from the airport to the hotel. The hotels more and more don't provide shuttles, and you have to pay quite a bit. That it might be for that.
Okay, just curious. I don't mind moving forward. I just noticed that. So.
Other questions on any item? Councilwoman Baker.
Okay, just a couple. One is on the BC 2018-526 on the or their designee. That language, if I'm understanding this correctly now, will be entered onto all the contracts? This seems a pretty important piece of it.
Ken Surratt, Department of Development, and the answer is that is correct.
That's right.
Yes.
So, okay.
Going forward, they will all have that.
That seems important to me. Okay.
Okay. Other question?
If I may, on the BC 2018-537, watching those ERP expenses, we were taking out of the general fund those amounts, and then, is that part of this ask?
What number was that?
That was
Oh, 30.
IS 18-42947.
First one.
First one? Yeah. The ERP expenses, some of that was reallocated back to the general fund. Is that what this money is coming out of, or is this part of the 25 million?
The 25 million is general fund now.
Yeah, but there was I know Dennis would, there was dollars that were sent back to the general fund because it was used for ERP purposes.
The original ERP capital dollars, 25 million, the way I understand it, the original 25 million was separated, then it became part of the operational budget for IT, and it became an IT index number put in. Now, there was a question earlier about how much is the remaining balance or whatever.
Yeah.
I have those figures, but keep in mind the whole 25 million certainly hasn't been encumbered to this point.
Right.
Just what they had needed. So as of this morning, taking a look at it, out of approximately, without giving you the change, out of approximately 14.2 million, there's a remaining balance of 5.2 million. And again, the 14.2 is part of the 25 overall.
Yeah. Okay. I'll look at it. Thanks.
Further questions?
I did have one other. Let's see here. Oh, on the variety of the CT 18-43158 and 70 and 71 and 74, all those building materials, is that for anticipated repairs or something that's in front of you to pay?
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This is in anticipation through the end of the year. So in early July, we had an alternate procurement approved by this board up to, I think it was $496,000. We were working with the fiscal office and identifying vendors that we were putting towards a voucher. We're attempting to encumber this money. This is just another wave. We approved, I think, 8 last week, a handful the previous week. This is just an additional 9. We anticipate this be the spend, but obviously things change and evolve. These vendors were identified based on historical usage and spend. But again, things could change and evolve. But it is
that's from
anticipation.
that list that was given?
Yes. So there's a total of 28 vendors we identified that will result in, I believe, 34 DOs and department orders and purchase orders. This will bring the total approved by this board to 21. A few of the other ones are just taking a little bit longer to get through by speed and on base. So.
Sure. Other questions? Seeing none, I move to approve the consent agenda items 524 through 537. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda items are approved. Now on to other business.
We do have other business. We have one additional item. Item number BC 2018-538. It's a two-part item. Department of Sustainability. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 43331, which will result in an award recommendation to Bricker and Eckler LLP in the amount not to exceed $142,430 for legal services, and it's in connection with the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas case number CV 18-897478, Cleveland Electric Illuminating Company versus City of Cleveland et al. And it's for the period August 6, 2018 through May 1st, 2019. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Mike Foley, Department of Sustainability. As you may recall, this is last year we passed legislation to help construct a landfill solar project in the city of Brooklyn. That construction has gone forward. In fact, the last solar panels were put onto the landfill last week, and we're working with Cleveland Public Power to take that power and distribute it back into our facilities, our buildings. In June, CEI, First Energy, filed a lawsuit against CPP saying that the construction of lines running out to the project were unsafe. They were doing it in an unsafe manner. CPP responded, and there was an agreement made, and CPP is doing this in a safe manner. They filed then an amended complaint in July, basically saying that CPP did not have the ability to take this power from the landfill and distribute it to either us or anyone else. So they're making now a legal argument that CPP is in violation of the law. We as the county, one is we believe that CPP has the ability to do this, but two, we've already spent over $4 million in prepayment of electricity coming from the solar panels. That money has been used to help do the construction of the project. The lawsuit, basically, we think we were going to win. We don't think there's going to be any problems with the legalities of it, but this helps basically frustrate our ability to take that electricity, delay it, potentially stop it. So we want to preserve our rights in this lawsuit, intervene into the lawsuit, and defend ourselves and make sure this goes okay. So this is what this is for, and $142,000 is the outset of what we would pay. Bricker and Eckler is the law firm who we would use. They helped us construct the contract. So it's this complicated contract between ourselves, Cleveland Public Power, and KERP, which is the developer of the project. And they understand the contract. They also understand energy law pretty well. They're some of the foremost kind of energy attorneys in the state.
This is subject to approval agreement with the county prosecutor, correct?
Correct. And if I could add, Executive, so while we have indications that the prosecutor is okay with this, I don't have a formal document yet from the prosecutors. We do have, there are pleadings due this coming Friday, August 10th. So this is why this is coming on at a late date.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Nani.
So this is a law firm that's representing the county, and Cleveland Public Power has their own attorneys in this
That
process?
is correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Just a comment.
Yes, Councilman Miller.
It would be nice if there could be some public-private partnership between First Energy and the governmental institutions in the county around the need for advancing renewable energy. I think this is disgraceful on their part, and just have to say so.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, I move to approve. Is there a second? Oh, first, I'm sorry. I move to amend today's agenda first to consider the item. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of amending the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is amended. I move to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approving the item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Thank you. Thanks.
Item of business is a mission-critical item. Office of the Medical Examiner recommending an award on requisition 43252 to Agilent Technologies in the amount not to exceed $4,015, and it's for emergency repair of one Agilent G1888 headspace auto sampler, and it's for the period July 24th, 2018 through August 31st, 2018.
Shannon Medical Examiner's Office. Thing broke, and we had to fix it. So don't ask me what that is. I'm to go and educate myself on specifics, but apparently it was important to keep the thing running.
Space is important.
Oh, you fixed it.
It's fixed.
First of all, I move to amend today's agenda to consider the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is amended. Councilman Miller.
On the basis of that highly technical explanation, I'm going to move approval for the medical examiner.
Thank you. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Nani. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Thank you. Any other business?
No other business at this time.
Any public comment?
No public comment.
I move to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.